My name's Ryan Diamisi. I work for Christian Wealth Management. I want my clients to use their money as a tool to build their faith. So today we're going to think about how your home or the goal of a home, your current home or the goal of a home, could be used as a tool to build your faith. So the first thing that we got to think through is, why should we get a home? We know in America, buying a home feels like the cultural pressure. It's good to ask yourself, why are you motivated to buy a home? So here's some reasons why somebody might be buying a home. Oftentimes, it's a built-in savings account for people. You can build equity through the monthly mortgage payment versus rent. It just gets thrown away. So that's a very common way. The home is going to appreciate in value most likely over the long term. When you get a home, you get a mortgage, fixed rate mortgage, you are locking in a monthly expense, where with rent, your expense is going to increase each year. So you get a little bit of stability when you buy a home, and that's great. People, when they're renting, may feel less motivated to improve the space or customize it to their preferences. But when you buy a home, you're generally having a longer term outlook. So there's more freedom that one may have to customize the space to be exactly what they want. So it's another common reason. And there's more reasons. I actually printed out ChatGPT's 9 reasons, but I just gave you the ones that I think are the most substantial. Is you're buying an asset that is going to likely appreciate over time. You stabilize your financial situation, which is good. And then you give yourself some freedom to customize the space to what you want it to be. So I think those are the 3 most common substantial reasons somebody might buy a home. So let's consider the 5 ways we can use our home to build our faith. So the first one is to provide for our family. So 1 Timothy 5:8 gives us direction that if we don't provide for our family, we're worse than unbelievers. That's pretty strong language from Paul that communicates there's an obligation that I have to think about and pray about what does provision look like for my family. So buying a home is a good thing, and that is a way that you can provide for your family. The second way you can use your home as a way to build your faith is use it as a dependency on God's provision. And you could take that as, I'm going to get the biggest payment in the world, so I could depend on God's provision monthly. You could take it that way. The way that I would do that more is to think about, what does Scripture say about financial decisions? And there's Proverbs that talks about the borrower being a slave to the lender. There's scriptures that talk about to let no debt remain outstanding except our continuing debt to love one another. So there's maybe some direction through Scripture that debt's not a good thing. So for me, what I would be thinking through is, what is a home I can buy and pay off quickly? Now, if you have the cash to buy a home, then you can use the Dave Ramsey. Is Dave Ramsey there? There he is, right there. What do you think about this, Dave? He's liking it. He's smiling. You could use the Dave Ramsey method of decision making, which is, if you have the cash, maybe God said yes. If you don't have the cash, that's an absolute no. Or a simpler way to say it, if you don't have the cash, God said no. Dave Ramsey also says, if you're going to borrow for anything, the only thing he's okay with, or actually says the only thing he won't yell at you for, is a 15-year mortgage. And I've done this 13 years, and I'm convinced he's right. Because when you get a 15-year mortgage, you put yourself in a position that you can pay the home off quickly, and you can redeem that payment in your budget. A 30-year mortgage, if you look at the amortization schedule, you're paying a substantial amount of interest the first years of the mortgage. And it's just not motivating to try to pay off the home when you're making these payments and it's all going to the bank. But a 15-year, you put yourself in a position, you actually see your mortgage go down sooner, and you probably bought a less expensive home. So the amount you have to pay off is going to be less too. So the second point is, use your home purchase decision as a way to depend on God. And that really is going to be like reconciled, or you're going to get direction on that through prayer and prayer alone. So the third reason to buy a home is a place for what matters the most. So the good news is when you buy a smaller home, you have less room for things. So as a friend put it, it's a way to minimize your earthly junk and maximize your heavenly treasure. So if you purchase a home that has 3 or 4 bedrooms, you're not going to leave the bedrooms empty. If you don't have stuff for the bedrooms, you're probably going to buy stuff to fill it up. So what happens when you buy a more modest home is you're going to ultimately be content with what you have. And it will help you ideally prioritize what are the things that matter most. Like what's the basics of what you need in a home. Yeah, my dad, when I was 16 years old, we went to a Christian concert festival called Spirit West Coast. And I brought $200 for the weekend. And I left that weekend spending exactly what I brought, $200. I told my dad, Dad, I can't believe it. I brought exactly what I needed. And he said, Ryan, if you brought $500, you would have spent $500. If you brought $100, you would have spent $100. And that concept that my dad taught me very young, which is you will use what you have, in a home is a good example. If you have more rooms, you're going to fill it up with stuff, and maybe stuff that you care about, and maybe stuff that you don't. But the good news is when you buy a home that you can easily afford, you're probably going to have less earthly junk, and you'll be able to think about, how do I make this space be exactly only what matters? And that's puts you in a good position to not get distracted with things that don't matter. The third way to use your home as a tool to build your faith is to major on what matters most. The fourth is a place for connection. My wife and I have talked about what we care about the most is to maintain our connection with God and our connection with others. Scripture talks about the importance of pursuing God and helping the poor and being in fellowship with others. So we can use our home as a way of facilitating those connections. And if we purchase a home that is stressful to live in because the costs are too high, or maybe the time commitment's too high to maintain it, that could put a fracture on the things that matter the most, which is spending time with God and with others. So we want your home to be a place of connection. So that's the fourth way that you could use your home as a tool to build your faith. So the final way is a place for blessing. So that is something you get to be really creative with what that could look like. Some ideas could be that if you have an extra room, you could rent it out for a good deal to somebody that's in need. You could have people over, friends over. You could have strangers over and share meals with them regularly. It could be a very good avenue for you to build new relationships with other people that you don't know. The last thing that I could think of is what happens to the home when you pass away. If you bought a home that's modest, that you can pay off quickly, it's going to become an asset that doesn't have a liability on it. So there's going to be more potential value that can be passed to your kids, a charity, or the government. Those are the 3 things you can do with. You can leave your stuff to your heirs, to a charity, or the government. So I want to make a joke about leaving the house to the government, but there's 3 places you can leave your things to. And most of us are trying to figure out how to maximize what we're leaving to our kids or to a meaningful nonprofit organization. So hopefully those 5 ideas of how you can use your home to build your faith were helpful. And smash that like and subscribe button. We're done, right? Yeah. Okay. Thanks for watching this content. It means a lot to us. Our vision is to inspire people to connect their faith to their finances. If you've enjoyed this content, please give us your feedback. Tell us things that we could do better, topics to talk about, or if you want us to change what book to have in the background. Totally happy with those ideas too. If you're looking for an advisor, please reach out.